A warm welcome to Diplomatic Channel. I am Layo Olarinde. Here are the highlights of the program. Regional tensions intensify in the Democratic Republic of Congo as the M23 rebels take over control of Goma City, the capital of North Kivu province. However, the Congolese government vows it will not give up a single centimeter of its territory to the rebels. And here in West Africa, Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso formally exit the regional bloc ECOWAS. But before that, let's check other top stories in diplomatic circles. UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer was in Brussels to join a gathering of EU leaders for a meeting, the first time a British Prime Minister is doing so since Brexit. Talks focused on defence and security cooperation. Sir Starmer also met with NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte. The trip is part of what he calls a reset between the UK and the European Union. However, Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch claims the Labour government is trying to reopen the divisions of the past and edge them back into the EU. After Monday's visit, the Prime Minister is expected to be in the US. Canada, Mexico and China have vowed to respond with similar levies to the new tariffs imposed by US President Donald Trump on goods entering America. On February 1st, President Trump slammed on US trading partners a levy of 25% on Canadian and Mexican exports, as well as 10% tax on Chinese goods effective Tuesday, February the 4th. The US president says the move is in response to his concerns about illegal immigration, drug trafficking, and trade deficits, three of the main promises on which he was elected. Mr. Trump also says he will definitely impose tariffs on the European Union in the near future, as the bloc is not treating the US well. For the UK, President Trump says it is out of line, but something can be worked out.
I am announcing Canada will be responding to the U.S. trade action with 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods. This will include immediate tariffs on $30 billion worth of goods as of Tuesday, followed by further tariffs on $125 billion worth of American products in 21 days' time to allow Canadian companies and supply chains to seek to find alternatives. Like the American tariffs, our response will also be far-reaching and include everyday items such as American beer, wine, and bourbon, fruits and fruit juices, including orange juice, along with vegetables, perfume, clothing, and shoes. It'll include major consumer products like household appliances, furniture, and sports equipment, and materials like lumber and plastics, along with much, much more. And as part of our response, we are considering, with the provinces and territories, several non-tariff measures, including some relating to critical minerals, energy, procurement, and other partnerships. We will stand strong for Canada. We will stand strong to ensure our countries continue to be the best neighbors in the world.
Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has unveiled a dynamic compact initiative to help accelerate the drive to provide more energy for the African continent. President Tinubu reaffirmed Nigeria's commitment to making available reliable, affordable and sustainable electricity supply to its unelectrified population by 2030. This pledge was made at the Mission 300 Africa Energy Summit at Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. The Democratic Republic of Congo has been dogged by conflict for more than 30 years. The violence has triggered a troubling humanitarian crisis in the mineral-rich east, with the United Nations warning of displacements of thousands of people forced from their homes, serious food shortages, looted aid, overwhelmed hospitals, and the potential spread of diseases. Foreign embassies have been targeted by mobs in the capital, Kinshasa, with people angry that the international community has failed to intervene and stop the fighting. However, Kinshasa's governor, Daniel Mumba, has announced a ban on protests in the capital city, while urging residents to stay calm. At least 17 foreign peacekeepers have now been killed, including 13 South Africans so far. UN experts and critics have long accused neighboring Rwanda of backing the M23 rebels, but Rwanda has consistently denied this. The President Paul Kagame recently lashed out at South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa, accusing him of telling lies and distorting peace conversation on the DRC conflict, adding that South Africa is in no position to play a peacemaker or mediator role.
South Africa dares even issue threats about what is likely to happen after that and so on and so forth. Of course, we will see what threats they are talking about. Maybe they should have done that exactly for which they have been issuing threats. They should have done it to clean up the mess in Eastern Congo, or to fight back those who have been trying to clean up the mess. So then you have the whole international community just confused. They talked about Rwanda, they talked about the Nairobi process. Honestly, even here, maybe you will help me understand what all this means. The processes became an end in themselves. And the people leading these processes became more important than the results of the processes. The Nairobi process became a Uhuru process. Then the Rwanda process, it's like you can't say anything that will displease President Lorenzo. Definitely, this does not help deal with such a serious matters as we are faced with today. That in the end, just because they can't be addressed, we have such a situation that like we have now.
Joining us now is Ambassador Ogbole Amedu Ode, former spokesperson at the Nigerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Thank you so much for your time on Diplomatic Channel.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Well, the Democratic Republic of Congo has been rocked by violence for more than 3 decades. What are your thoughts on the root cause of this conflict?
Yeah, thank you. More than 3 decades, yes. I think the story of the Democratic Republic of Congo has always been the story of bloodletting, right from its colonial foundation under the bloody rule of King Leopold of Belgium, who founded the colony and, of course, named it after himself. Killing and maiming and chopping off hands in order to meet targets of rubber production until independence in 1960, when the pioneer Prime Minister, the late Patrice Lumumba, was killed in the most brutal manner. His tooth removed and preserved by his Belgian killers, and on to some stability, if you call that, under the Mobutu Sese Seko regime. And then, of course, his eventual overthrow by the allied forces of Uganda and Rwanda, and then the installation of Kabila, the senior Kabila as president, his own assassination, and again, his succession by his son, Joseph Kabila. which witnessed the first democratic transition, peaceful democratic transition in the Congo. But even at that, there hasn't been peace. There have been incursions from the common border with Rwanda to the east, and so on and so forth. So it has always been one story of bloodletting or the other in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Now, rebels claim to have taken control of the city of Goma and are even threatening to move on to the capital, Kinshasa. But the Congolese government maintains that it is still in charge, even as the fighting continues. Who are we to believe in this? Who exactly is in control of the DRC?
The eastern flank with Goma as the capital of North Kivu province, obviously from reports we are receiving, has fallen to the forces of the M23. But quickly, let me say this, that in the war situation, propaganda is part of the war. People hardly accept either they have been defeated or are experiencing some defeat until it can be very well proven. And the reports we're getting is that, yes, the M23 rebels have seized control of Goma. There's sporadic shooting around the airport and the outskirts, but control has been taken over from news wires that we are receiving. So the Congolese authority might as well not be telling the truth as the situation is right now. So I think from all the reports we are getting, Goma has fallen to the forces of the M23 group.
Now, we've seen a mob action also on foreign embassies. We've seen Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, France, Belgium, their foreign embassies in Kinshasa being destroyed by protesters. Now, isn't this a violation of international law? And what does this say about the security situation on ground? Because, host governments are required to protect these embassies.
Yeah, you're right. The Vienna Convention on Diplomatic and Consular Relations, 1961, Article 22 specifically states that the premises of a diplomatic mission and the diplomatists who work there are inviolable. So if the premises are being attacked by mob action, yes, it's a violation of international law, obviously so. But again, it is against the backdrop of the frustration the Congolese people are experiencing at their government not being able to stymie the military incursion by the rebel forces. Two, also to express frustration about foreign interference, because of course the allegation out there with multiple examples to give and evidence to provide is that the M23 forces are backed by Rwanda, their neighbor to the east.
Now, speaking of, M23 being backed by Rwanda, Rwanda has constantly deny these accusations, but like you've mentioned, there have been the United Nations coming out to say there are evidences, the US as well coming out to say there are evidences that Rwanda is backing the rebels. But Rwanda, we now see, is at odds with South Africa over the crisis. What are the possible diplomatic and also military consequences of this for the region, the East African region?
Well, you will recall that in the late 1990s, there was a regional war there that drew in other neighboring countries, Angola, Burundi, and others into the war that raged between 1997 until I think about 2002 or 2003. If the situation now emerging in the Great Lakes region in Africa is not quickly and very quickly handled, it will spiral out of control into another regional war. In drawing in Burundi, Angola, and other regional members of the East African community, and also probably SADC, the South African Development Commission.
Speaking about a spillover, sir, how can we avoid this, this conflict from reaching other regions of the continent? And especially, what roles do regional bodies, the EAC, the African Union, have to play in really ending this conflict?
Well, let us start from the regional body, African Union. In its constitutive act, it's empowered to try to intervene by way of mediation and arbitration now. But you will know that the African Union is itself weakened. In its last emergency meeting of the Peace and Security Council, emergency meeting number 1526, it issued a very robust communique condemning all the forces that are behind, the powers that are behind M23, and also asking for them to lay down their arms and go for negotiations without conditions, and laying down conditions and stop. But how far will that go? How successful can that be? I think to answer that question, we have to look at what has become the bane of Africa in general, and of course, the DRC in particular. A situation where nature's bountiful blessing has become a curse. And what do I mean by this? The natural endowments of minerals, and especially minerals that have become strategic in modern technological advancement, has now laid the foundation for all these conflicts, because everybody wants to dip its hand in the pie and have a piece of the action. And the best way to go about it is to continuously destabilize the DRC and then create a situation where people can go in there and loot by way of artisanal mining, not anything structured, not anything codified, for the benefit of the country under whose soil these minerals are found.
All right, then. Ambassador Obole Amedo, the former spokesperson at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, thank you for joining us on Diplomatic Channel.
Thank you for having me.
The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has confirmed the exit of 3 junta-led West African countries, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, from the regional bloc. The withdrawal took effect on January 29, marking the culmination of a year-long process during which the bloc tried to avert an unprecedented disintegration. However, the regional bloc ECOWAS is moving forward without the Sahel states.
A, closure of land and air borders between ECOWAS countries and Niger to be lifted. No-fly zone of all commercial flights to and from Niger is to be lifted.
The president of the ECOWAS Commission announcing the lifting of sanctions imposed on the Republic of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. Sanctions imposed in line with ECOWAS Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance after the democratic governments in the country were overthrown. The sanctions were intended to pressure the countries to restore constitutional order and return to democratic governance. Instead, the 3 countries announced their withdrawal from ECOWAS and formed the Alliance of the Sahel States.
The global environment has changed. If you know, we are now in a multipolar world, and then there is no unanimity even in the regional, continental, and international community against wrongdoers. So ECOWAS was in the right to apply the rules of its protocols.
Following the lifting of sanctions, other efforts were made by ECOWAS and the ECOWAS chairperson, President Bola Tinubu, to resolve the face-off.
It was a collective decision of the ECOWAS heads of state and government to impose sanctions on these countries. And within ECOWAS itself, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was disposed towards diplomacy, towards engagement, which is why several delegations were sent. The presidents of Togo and Sierra Leone were appointed as mediators to reach out to these countries so that they would be convinced to remain in ECOWAS. Unfortunately, those countries decided they wanted to leave.
The adamant position of the trio has multiple implications.
For the population, many of whom are operating in the informal sector, hardly recognize the borders between our countries. Things are going to be even harder.
You have the West African Health Organization, WAHU. WAHU is based in Burkina Faso. Yeah? So, in Ouagadougou. They leave ECOWAS. It means ultimately, if they insist beyond that 6-month period, it means you have to do away with WAHU. WAHU has to relocate from Ouagadougou, from Burkina Faso, where it employs a lot of people.
As the withdrawal effectively takes effect, the president of ECOWAS has announced some measures taken in the interest of the people and in the spirit of regional solidarity.
National passports and identity cards bearing ECOWAS logo and which are being held by citizens of the 3 countries, Burkina Faso, Republic of Mali, and the Republic of Niger, will remain recognized by ECOWAS member states until further notice.
The coming months will be crucial in determining how relations between ECOWAS and the 3 countries evolve. However, it is clear that everything must be done to ensure stability, security, and continued cooperation.
Which is a decision that we regret because we support very much West African integration. We are ourselves probably the most advanced model of regional integration in the world, and we think that this is a path to prosperity, to unity, to stability in all regions of the world, and especially in West Africa. So splitting does not seem to us a good idea. We've had this experience in the EU of a member state, former member state, which decided to exit the European Union. And how did we manage to have an as much as possible smooth exit? It was through negotiation and dialogue. It was not easy. It took some time, but finally we reached an agreement with the United Kingdom, an agreement on the modalities of the exit, and an agreement on our new relationship with them. And now we have constant dialogues on also adjusting this new agreement and trying to see how to make our new relationship more efficient. So, you know, even if you leave regional integration organizations, geography is still there. You remain neighbor, and you have so to find new ways of coexisting and cooperating. So we hope very much that ECOWAS and the 3 countries will be able to do that also.
Speaking on the implications of the exit of the 3 countries on our breakfast program, The Morning Brief, Nigeria's former ambassador to Switzerland and permanent representative to the United Nations, Geneva, Ambassador Joseph Ayalogu, said that these countries are still part of the sub-regions and cannot leave the bloc, as the things that determine their previous relationship still remains.
The fact remains that these countries are still part of the sub-region. That you say you are leaving doesn't mean you of course, you cannot leave physically. So all the things that determined the relationship in the past and why they all became part of ECOWAS are still there. There are still interactions, trade, cultural relationships with the rest of the ECOWAS. They are still there. So as much as possible, it should not be seen as the end of the world for both sides. It just calls for a new approach, new approach to whatever the issues are. But what one would hope is that, having separated or gone away, that the issue of security is still a collective regional challenge of ECOWAS, and the two groups will be working together still to deal with them. There will continue to be a demand for democratic dispensation. They think that what they have now enables them to deal with their challenges. And of course, ECOWAS will need to go back to the drawing board and they take the issues of political reforms, democratic rules, and so on, a lot more seriously, so that they will be in a position to really demand democracy from other countries, especially the AES countries and so on.
And that's Diplomatic Channel this week. You can watch this and other episodes again on youtube.com/channelsweb. I'm Layo Olarinde. Thank you for watching.